Welcome to Tripod, our travel retail themed podcast series in association with the Sephora Group. I'm Martin Moodie.
I'm Roger Jackson.
Roger, we're back again with a special guest in a few moments, but as always, we'll talk just briefly about some of the standouts from the industry. Anything on the top of your mind?
I think probably the topic that most people are talking about our industry at the moment, Martin, is the changing landscape, the possible change in landscape of retailers. Yep. We've got two pretty big tenders that are going on at the moment. So I guess, and you can throw Beirut in there. So Beirut is currently in the tender process, and I think that will happen in the next few weeks.
Yep.
We've got Paris and actually the French airports. Most of them are in the joint venture at the moment, and that will be announced in the coming weeks as well. Yep. And I think, as most people know, we've got Spain. So the tender that obviously currently Dufry has all of. And I don't know how that's going to be cut up. Will it be in three groups like it was last time? So, and, you know, for those who are either aren't that close to our industry or, or new to the industry, those two of those are really, really big tenders. The French tender and the Spanish tender are traditionally very, very large tenders. So good luck to everybody who is in that process. And let's see what comes out of that, because that could either give a lot of comfort to the two existing incumbent retailers, or obviously it could really change up the landscape. And I'm sure there's a lot of retailers out there who would like to get their hands on those locations.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly going to be ultra competitive tenders. It's good to see, of course, tenders taking place, because for the last couple of years we've not seen much activity for the reasons we know full too well. Just talking about France, of course, that's a nice segue, Roger, to today's guest, who works for a very French company, Lagardère Travel Retail. Shall we bring him in?
Yeah, it's a great guest. Yeah, let's speak to him.
So this episode's special guest on Tripod is Bruno Gouisset, Executive Vice President Merchant for Lagardère Travel Retail and Duty Free Global, a key role for the French travel retail powerhouse. Now, Bruno joined the group after a highly successful 8 years at LVMH-owned beauty retail chain Sephora, and before that, a similar period with French retailer Groupe Casino. Bruno, welcome to Tripod.
Thanks, Martin. Hello, Martin. Hello, Roger.
Hey, Bruno.
Great to have you with us, Roger. We'll kick off with you, and nice to be back with you, of course, as always.
Yeah. Hey, Bruno, great to see you again. I guess big question for me is, where did it all start for you? So background, family, sort of key influences when you were younger. Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, basically, I had a very international first years of my life. I'm born in the late 70s, and for the 10 first years, I've been changing countries every 2 years. My father was building all across the world. So I lived in Norway, I lived in Gabon, I lived in East Germany before the war, in Morocco, in Canada.
Wow.
So then I've been back in France to do my high school. I did my A level in France. Then I did a business school again in France and a master degree in France. So for the first 20 years of my life, I would say I spent more time abroad than in France, and in very different culture, in very different countries. Gabon and Morocco are very different from East Germany. So that, I think, contributes to what I am today, of that.
How long were you in East Germany for?
Sorry?
How long were you in East Germany for?
I've been in Germany for a bit less than 3 years.
Wow. I bet that was, well, I bet all those locations were interesting, but I bet being in East Germany at that time was very interesting.
Yeah, I'm one of the happy few that have experimented that.
Yeah. And then tell us a bit around your career. So you started off with Groupe Casino, and then obviously Sephora, owned by LVMH. Give us a bit of an idea of how all of that started, how did you get started in this career where obviously it's led you now?
Yeah, basically, as I said, before I worked, I've been abroad, and then when I start to look for a job, and in the early 2000 years, job situation was not as it is now, so it was a bit challenging to find job. Nevertheless, I had some conviction of what I wanted to do and what I don't want to do, and I really wanted to work in retail for international company. So I took a bit of time to find the job I want, the company I want, and I joined Casino Group as a buyer. And I spent 8 years in Casino Group at different buying positions, buyer, head of buyings, local, international. And after I moved to Sephora. When I look behind my shoulders and these 20 years of work I've done, I'm proud of plenty of things I've led or been part of, but I also remember plenty of mistake and failure I experimented that contribute also now to what I am. You know, in French, we say very often that you can do a mistake one time, maybe 2 times, but 3 times, then it's a problem. So I made a lot, and I've been very lucky in all my career to have plenty of boss that give me autonomy, that accept that I learn from mistake and failure, and I did a lot. But I had also plenty of success, but all that have contributed to build what I am professionally. And if I dig a bit into what each company gives to me, Casino as a first job, you know, it's mass market retail. So it gives me a lot of structure, process, teach me how to monitor figures, to be very sharp on analysis. It developed, obviously, my negotiation skills. I had my first experience of management, and it also gave me some values of results, hardworking, efficacy, and so on. So Casino basically was the first tone of what I am professionally. It gave me the basis.
Yeah.
Then, after a few years in Casino, I joined Sephora, and Sephora contribute also to build me, and it allowed me to enlarge my skills from negotiation to merchant vision. So to add category management, assortment, animation, promotion, pricing, and give me a much wide vision of the job. I had bigger teams to manage, and it's also the company where I first time joined an executive committee. So I've been exposed to strategic vision, to long-term vision, and also teach me to cope with managing a business unit as a merchant, but also being part of executive committee, so work on different topics like human resource, like logistic, like IT, being exposed to other problematics and contribute to it. It also developed my entrepreneurship, Sephora, because in Sephora, my last job was to open a country as a GM, Switzerland, for Sephora. So starting from zero, and at the end of the day, opened 25 corners, built headquarters, enrolled 200 people, built an executive committee, and that's also, yes, was very entrepreneurial, was working like a kind of startup, even if it was part of a big group, with some comfort of a big group, but with the challenge of a startup. So that has been also very, I learned a lot from that, and it was a lovely experience. Yeah.
I was going to say, given your moves as a child with your father's job, what was it like then for you to move to Geneva as part of your, your job?
Yeah, so it was very helpful, obviously. When you're a basic French, you say, okay, Switzerland is very close from France. It could be some similar. At the end of the day, it's very different. It's a country with 3 languages. Everything you have to do in 3 times. The social is very different. Consumer behavior are very different. Way of life is very different. Low labor and low labor law is very different. So I had to adapt. I had to learn. I had to learn German to speak with my team in the German part of Switzerland. French was okay. Italian I didn't manage, but it was a very nice experience. I loved it, and it's a kind of concentrate of everything you could find abroad without having the exotism of going in Asia or Latin America. So it was a very, very interesting experience. I learned a lot. The way of life also in Switzerland is quite cool. Huh? You are in the mountain, in the lake. So you work a lot, but for the free time, you have plenty of things to do outdoor. And so I loved it.
And then we were lucky enough to get you in travel retail. How did that come about?
So yeah, then I've been contacted by Lagardère to join Lagardère, and to understand this move, you have to understand that the boss I had in Sephora moved to Lagardère and contact me there. So I go back to work with the boss I had in the past. And I left a small country for Sephora, for at the time, and still now, a leading player in travel retail, Lagardère. So a global group, having leading position in plenty of countries, in a sector that is doing 15 to 20% growth every year with traffic. Going from a specialist in beauty to more all categories. So going back to what I had in Casino, working with beverage, working with food, working with beauty, so more global. So I was very happy to do this move, to stay somehow in the selective retail, because duty-free is kind of selective retail is a big share of it. Plenty of categories, dynamic sector. I was very, very happy to move there on a global role, merchant, that would allow me to combine everything I learned in my 2 past experience. Was basically it was the good job and the good momentum for me to be part again of an executive committee on a more global way, with more responsibility, and allow me to use all the experience I had. So it was a perfect job at the perfect moment in a very, very dynamic sector. So yeah, and then I came to a travel retail. And what did I discover in travel retail? Plenty of good things. First of all, and I was very surprised and still very surprised of it, it's a global community of passionate people. And when I see you and Martin, you are part of this community and you are animating a community of passionate people, and you don't find this passion in other kind of retail. You don't see this passion for mass market, you don't see this passion for selective beauty, even if you're passionate of beauty, but you don't see this community of passionate people. I think it's very specific for travel retail. It's a sector that is also much more reactive to everything. So you take a decision centrally, and as there are no plenty of layers between central and the shops in the airport, it happens in 2 or 3 days. You can see how it happened in the shop. So there is a lot of more reactivity. That's very good, because it allows you to experiment, to learn. And when you do a mistake, you can correct it much quicker than in other kind of retail. It's also much more sensible to macro and microeconomics or social events. And it's even disproportionate. There is a catastrophe, there is a war, there is like the COVID. The effect you get in travel retail are multiplied by 10 compared to the others. And the consequences mean that you have to adapt and reinvent yourself much quicker, much quicker. So that's making difference. And on the other hand, now that I'm in this sector for 4 years, I start to become passionate about this sector. And I see that we could do much more in travel retail. When you look on the assets of travel retail, high quality traffic, very international profile, all kind of buyer typology. I don't understand why the brands don't use more travel retail as a laboratory to launch their brand, to launch their product, and so on. So very often the brands, they launch on local markets, they grow on local market, and then they come in travel retail. Best case, they launch at the same time. And now, for me, now that I'm on this sector, it's a nonsense. You have a kind of concentration of what the world is in the big international platform, and brands could test, learn, and then deploy internationally on the local market. So I think that some brands are starting to think like that, and I think that we have our job to do as operator to propose to the brands and explain them all the benefits they could have, and with more working with us. So I think that there's still a long way to do, but my ambition is to make of travel retail, and obviously Lagardère more than the others, the best platform to launch, the best platform to test, the best platform to experiment when you have something to do before going international.
I couldn't agree anymore. And I think we've got a job as an industry to make all of the brands feel that this is a place to do exactly what you said, Bruno, because there isn't any industry globally that can do what we do, which is launch a product and then everyone from pretty much every single country that exists, I think 186 countries, I'm sure Martin will correct me, I think it's 186 countries in the world, where there'll be someone from every single one of those countries to see your brand, they'll buy it, they'll take it home, and then they'll tell loads of people. And there is not an industry where you can do that exists apart from global travel.
Absolutely.
Just a quick one, Bruno, from me. Who are your key influences, mentors, whether it's work or personal? Who's had a real big impact on you in your career?
So in my career, I had, I think, 4 persons that influenced me a lot. One very personal is my father, that I've seen always working a lot with big values, with courage, with passion, with conviction, and with very strict, with taste for things, for good results and things well done. And that has been a very strong influence and has built. And then professionally, plenty of person influenced me, plenty my bosses, some of my senior colleagues, some managers, some top managers from the brands I meet, and I still meet very often. So for the brand side, I will not tell you who are the ones, otherwise they will use it.
You'll be getting extra price increases, Bruno.
Yeah, exactly. so I will not tell you, but I can tell you the bosses I had in my career. I had 3 bosses that have been influenced me a lot. My first boss in Casino, called Philippe Gautreau, is the one that gave me my chance. And it was a time when Casino transformed itself from a regional or French retailer to a global one. And he was leading the international part of Casino. And at this time in Casino, there was not many people speaking English. So I've been very lucky to a few words of English. And very young, I've been exposed to the international expression of Casino with, and it gave me responsibility just because I was speaking a few words of English. And this trust and this confidence, this autonomy that give me, and this ability against to fail and learn, and the way he behaved as a pioneer international has inspired me a lot. The second, not direct boss I had, but the one that inspired me a lot was the boss, the CEO of Sephora when I was in Sephora.
Yeah.
Christopher de la Puente, that is now leading all the retail of LVMH. And the way he transformed Sephora from basically a regional leader of beauty to the global beauty reference in a few years, making a global company and a reference in beauty, changing the organization, changing the mindset, changing the casting also of the person, but smoothly, but straight, smooth and straight, was with a vision and very inspirational, has been an influence for me. And last but not least, and I don't say it because I'm sure he will not listen to the podcast, so I can say it. It's my current boss, Lilian. He was my boss in Casino. He was my boss in Sephora. He's again my boss in Lagardère. So first of all, I have to cope with the fact that I will never be his boss. But he has been also an influence because he also is very strategic. He has a very strong strategic vision. He's at the same time tough and human. We share the same value, and it teaches me to transform very, very complex problematics and situations to split it in plenty of simple and pragmatic issues. So this way to transform a big piece of problems into plenty of simple actions has helped me to be a better professional every day. So compare that to all his strategic vision, his human approach, the same value we share is also a strong influence to me.
Okay, very interesting. We'll make sure, Roger, that he does listen to this podcast, won't we?
I'm going to send it to him on purpose. We'll make him a listener.
Absolutely. There's no escape, Bruno, I'm afraid, with Roger and I. But listen, just to bring this first part, very interesting part, to an end. You talked about the people that kind of help shape your career and indeed your career values. Let's just pick out some of the highlights, or maybe one or two of the highlights along the way. Always difficult when you track back over a journey, but is there anything that really jumps out as you as particularly momentous to Bruno during that journey you've just described?
So if I have to take a highlight, a moment or something that I think I will always have in my mind, I would say it's when the night or the day when all the lights turned off on travel retail 2 years ago, when a day to another, everything has been closed.
Yeah.
And when you are on a management committee on a retailer doing only travel retail in Lagardère, and you wake up this morning and everything is closed and you know it will be for a long time. And it's a kind of shock. And say, okay, I have teams, and you see all the issues you will have on cash, on stock, on human, and you know, it's something that nobody has seen before. So even if you're supposed to be kind of senior executive, you're supposed to have answers, but at this specific morning, when everything turned off, you don't have any, you kind of like a blank page, and then you honestly speaking, it took me 2 or 3 days to think on a way to work on and to talk to the teams. And then what I loved, and if I say I have to love something on this period, is that we all fight to survive, and that creates kind of team spirit with all the company, from my bosses to the assistant. We all survive for the same goal, very simple, only to survive. Yeah. But it also creates much more proximity with the landlords and the brands. And I think that before the COVID, we were talking about Trinity. And it could be, to some extent, sometimes a concept. After COVID, it's not anymore a concept. It's very, very now teams that work very well together, and the links we have developed with the landlords and with the brands that were all facing situation and not fighting, just trying to find the best way to make travel retail survive as long as possible. For me, is the highlight of my career. It was difficult, it was tough. Yeah. We had to take very uncomfortable decision, yeah. But now we can say that most part of the crisis is behind our shoulders, and we are much more stronger, much more unified, than much more healthy than we were 2 years ago. So yeah. For me, it's a highlight.
Bruno, that's as good and as human a summing up of this crisis, I think, Roger, as I've heard. And yeah, we all know where we were when the lights went out, as you so memorably just put it. It's good to see the lights coming back on now, isn't it, as you referred to, but it's been, you know, a profoundly challenging time in all our lives and all our corporate lives, and yeah, it's been some journey, and it's really good to hear that note of optimism as you come through it. A bit battered, a bit bruised, but optimistic and as you say, unified. So very well put indeed. Well, Bruno, as the lights are back on, we're going to take you somewhere very bright indeed. We're going to take you out to the Tripod desert island. It has duty-free rights, of course. We would only have it that way, and we're going to give you a few creature comforts to enjoy it, because you deserve it after what you've been through the last couple of years. So Roger, I'll let you take Bruno on our regular journey.
Bruno, obviously we're in travel retail, so I've got to start off on the desert island. You've got one duty-free item to pick. Now, I've had some feedback that I've been being far too slack recently and let people have two. So it's got to be one item of duty-free from the feedback I've received. So what one item would you take from the Lagardère shop on the way to the desert island?
Okay, Roger. So if you pay for me for airplane tickets to go on the desert island, and if I had to stop with pleasure in one of our Alia or by Paris duty-free shop, I suppose that if you pay for airplane ticket, you don't pay for life, you pay for 2 or 3 weeks holidays on the desert islands. So it will be holiday, it will be for life. And I think I will take a bottle of scotch to take a glass of scotch on the evenings, listening a bit of music and enjoying just pleasure and I think that illustrates well what is a travel retail. It's beautiful products with beautiful history that you can having alone or share. It's a lot about taste You test a fragrance, you test a liquor, you test a wine, you test a cigar, you test food. So I think Scotch is, and for me, would be what I would take with me.
Is it an unfair question to ask you which brand?
It's an unfair question.
Okay, I'll leave it there then. And then on the desert island with your Scotch, you've got one piece of music or album. So which one would you take?
I'm a bit old-fashioned in music, so there's a song that I've listened a lot. It's Brother in Arms from Dire Straits. For me, it's I love the band, I love the melody, but it's also a song that is quite well my values about team, about friendship, about courage, about tolerance, about that. So it's a song that is very nice melody from outstanding band with content that I like quite well.
Fantastic. So you've got your Scotch, you've got your music now. You're allowed to bring one book on the island as well. What book would it be?
So I will take a French classic book called Au bonheur des dames from a French classic writer, Émile Zola. I think in English would be The Lady's Delight. And it's a book happening in the late 19th centuries in Paris, when the first department store opened in Paris. And you see all the challenge they are facing to build a department store in matter of organization, in matter of management. It's a drama, so there is a story in it, but it's a book I read when I was 16 or 17. I had to read it for school, and now that I'm in retail, in kind of multi-category retail, like department store or travel retail, I think I would love to read again this book to come back to the genesis of why we are there in selective retail and department store.
All right. Great choice. Well, Bruno, you're a very warm and gregarious character, so we can't leave you isolated on this island. We've arranged a pretty special dinner party for you, and you can have 3 guests from your life today or from history, for that matter. It can be any one you like, any man, any woman. Who would they be and why?
So that was very tough for me to prepare these questions, but now I have the 3 persons I will definitely go with. The first person I will go with is a French political woman that is died now. It's called Simone Veil. It's a French personality that has been several times minister in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
She was deported during the Second World War and was the first woman to be president of the European Parliament. And her life has always been a fight against any kind of discrimination. And she was especially a defendant of the equality men and women. And she's the one that legalized abortion in France. When we hear the recent actuality,
in
I
America,
think, having the vision of the person that gave her life for these causes could help to continue to move forward rather than doing step back. So I think I will definitely take her.
Really great choice.
Yeah, amazing.
Second choice I will take, you will love it, Martin, is Richie McCaw.
Oh, yes. Bruno, I like you even more.
You know, I'm a former rugby player, and he is very, very inspiration for me. 111 times All Black captain. I think he's one of the greatest rugby players of the history, and I love rugby, so I would love to speak rugby with him. But more than a rugby player, I think he is a tremendous leader. He represents what is leadership, with value of sacrifice, of team first, of courage, of never giving up, and the love to win. And I think he's a great man to have on the table. So
I've got to intervene there, Roger. That is really noble coming from a Frenchman who watched Richie McCaw lead the All Blacks to their first World Cup in 24 years in Auckland. I was there, and they won by 1 point against a much unfancied French side who really did not have the rub of the green on that night from the referee, as Bruno well knows. And Richie did spend most of his time on the wrong side of the ruck, Bruno,
exactly,
as he tended to do. And many a Frenchman thought he should have been penalised in the second half, and you might have won that game. But you know, to your point, he played most of that tournament with pretty much a broken foot.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolute courage that got him through. So I obviously love your choice. So thank you for that. We'll give you one more, of course, Bruno.
Yeah, and I will take Antoine de Saint-Exupéry because he's not too far from travel retail. He's a French aviator, explorer, humanist journalist, poet and writer. He wrote Le Petit Prince, that is a worldwide bestseller book.
Yeah.
And having also a bit of poesy, dream with me on the island will be also a pleasure. So that's the three person I will come. I don't know what Richie McCaw and Simone Weil will discuss well together, but I'm sure we can find common subject.
I'm sure you could. I'd probably, in keeping with tradition, Richie would be on the wrong side of the table, but there we go. Anyway, great choice. Really, really, that would be a wonderful dinner party. So look, you've been on the island for a little while. We want to give you another treat. We're going to take you off the island and fly you, Bruno, anywhere in the world that features at the top of your bucket list. So we'd like to know where that is and why you would make that choice.
As far as I remember, when I was young, the best memories I was of my young years was when I was living in Morocco. So I love this country. I love the people there, and I go quite often. And every time I go, when I reactivate, when I smell, when I smell the odors, when I see the colors, when I hear the people talk, it reactivates all these beautiful memories of my young years. So I would love to go back there, spend a bit of time.
Well, we will take you there with great pleasure, Bruno. Bruno, it's been fabulous to talk. I'll hand over to Roger to conclude, but thanks for your time today. You're as I said, a really warm and engaging character, and this has just been a nice conversation, and that is how we like to run a tripod.
Thank you, Martin. It was also a pleasure.
Been really good. Roger, final word to you.
Thank you, Bruno. It was great to have you on. Thank you for sharing how you felt when, as you described it, the lights went off. I think you're probably the first person who's actually done that justice that we've had on the podcast. How you described it is exactly how I felt, and I think everyone in the industry felt. And I have to say, whilst it is probably not the most PC thing to say, out of a small select group of retailers, I genuinely, who we work with as well, I genuinely believe Lagardère was one of the few that came out with, with more credibility than they went in with. And that's not really spoken about in our industry because people don't want to mention that. But I have to, and Martin knows I've said this privately to him, Lagardère came out very quickly with pure class to all of their suppliers and the partners they have. And I did just want to say that, Bruno, given the fact of how you shared, how you felt on the other side, the industry really appreciated how Lagardère came out, and I don't think that'll ever be forgotten.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it.
Well, very well said, Roger. Well, Bruno, we'll touch base in 2023 because there's a certain rugby tournament going on in France. And of course, the first game of the tournament, the opener is between France and the All Blacks. And after the thumping that you gave us a few months ago, I think you and most of France are pretty confident of the result of that. So we'll wish you well, but perhaps not too well.
Yeah, but for the first time, I think we are kind of the favorites. And for every World Cup, we were decent challenger. And now we are one of the 2 or 3 favorites for the World Cup, even if not the favorite. So I'm looking forward, because All Blacks are always the All Blacks, and if everything go well, we will play them 2 times. Yeah.
Let's hope so. We would certainly take that, because we're down in the dumps at the moment as the All Blacks, so we'd take that. Anyway, Bruno, thanks so much for being with us today. Let these lights keep shining brightly in travel retail. As we said earlier, they are getting brighter and brighter. The business is getting better and better. Go well. I hope Lagardère Travel Retail continues to grow and grow, and with people like you involved, I have no doubt that it will. Mr. Bruno Gouisset, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much, Roger.
Oh, Roger, what a great episode. Bruno's a very warm, engaging, as I said on the program, gregarious character, isn't he? And as the episode went on and he told more about his life and career, I just really warmed to him. I didn't know him well before the event. I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, he is. I think Bruno, I don't think he'd be too angry for me saying he keeps himself to himself.
Right.
He concentrates on Lagardère and his job, and he's 4 years in. But I think for us as an industry, the more Bruno is out there and people get to know him, I think that'll be of benefit to him and our industry, and obviously Lagardère. So he's a great guy. He's got a great sense of humor. And I loved the way he phrased that moment when he spoke about, for 3 days, he literally, just couldn't even speak to his team and, everything that was going on. We haven't really had too many people that have talked about that moment, even though we've all had our own. Martin, yourself, your business, like ours, all came to a standstill. So everyone who was involved in travel retail, whether you're a brand ambassador, whether you're a retailer, whether you're a distributor, publication, media, social media, everyone halted. And Bruno, I think, really hit the nail on the head there when he gave us that description.
Yeah, the lights went off. All right. No, he was great. Well, we'll see you again with another very special guest very soon, Roger. So for now, to all our listeners and viewers, of course, this is Martin Moodie saying, see you next time.
See you next time.